Good evening. Welcome to the big question on NDTV Profit. I'm Vikram Boza. Now, we know West Asia is on fire. There are drones, missiles and proxy forces, all of which are reshaping the battle space by the hour. So over the last week, we've seen Iran launch waves of drones and ballistic missiles across the Gulf, into Kuwait, into Bahrain, into Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. We've seen fires everywhere. While Israel and the United States are striking inside Iran, degrading launchers, air defenses and drone bases, in Israel itself, successive salvos from Iran have triggered these nationwide alerts, even as the Israeli Defense Forces are claiming that hundreds of Iranian launchers have been destroyed. The Hezbollah, on its part, has opened a new front from Lebanon. Independent trackers and major wires saying that this is now a multi-front, high-intensity air war with the United States, officials now signaling weeks of operations. So at the center of this, all the hostilities are the cheap, long-range, one-way attack drones, like Iran's Shahid. The 136 Shahids, which are forcing defenders to fire the $1 million interceptors. United Arab Emirates, they have their layered defenses, and that includes the THAAD. It includes the Patriot. They have been intercepting a high proportion of threats, but the cost asymmetry is quite stark. India has been watching, of course. All of this is playing out. And we are learning as well. After Operation Sindoor, where Akash air defenses and the D4 counter-drone systems and the loitering munitions like Sky Striker and Nagastra, all of which were used against terror infrastructure and hostile drones, Delhi's focus now on indigenous capability has sharpened. There's the indigenous push. There is the swarming long-range systems like the Bengaluru-designed Sheshnag 150 and the Noida-based IT Defenses Project Cal, both pitching approximately 1,000 kilometers of reach and 3 to 5+ hours of endurance. And then there is Prime Minister Modi's mission Sudarshan Chakra, the Indian Iron Dome vision. It targets a 2035 horizon for this multi-layered, integrated air defense and counter-drone shield. That is the vision. And meanwhile, the global economics of drones is suggesting that India's drone sector could be an $11 billion play by the year 2030. So all of which we are taking into account right now as we see the West Asia war spiral. In that background, as it's playing out, we're asking a simple question. With the kind of drones and missiles and proxy warfare that is currently underway in West Asia, we're asking the simple question, is India prepared? If something like this could happen so close, then how prepared is India to take this on? Let's take this across to our panel. They're joining us on the show. Let me introduce you to them. Well, joining us on the show today, we have an excellent panel joining us to help us make sense of India's preparedness, as it were. Representing the Indian defense tech industry is Agnishwar Jayaprakash, the founder CEO of Garuda Aerospace. He's joining us. Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad, a seasoned defense analyst, decades of command experience, a very clear view of modern warfare. We'll also have Sudhanshu Kumar, a subject matter expert with the Center for Joint Warfare Studies, which functions under the Headquarters Integrated Defense Staff in the Ministry of Defense, someone who lives and breathes the operational side of India's defense thinking. And in a moment, we'll have defense expert Ajay Shukla as well joining us on the panel. Great to have you all, gentlemen. Let me have this rapid fire in the first round. So can I request short, pointed answers in a way that our viewers know where you stand up front? And then if you wish to refute or add, just raise your hand all throughout this half-hour show that we have. I'll bring you in right away. But let's keep it crisp. Let me begin by asking Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad, we've seen how countries are being hit. They're getting hit by hundreds of low-cost drones, forcing these countries to use extremely expensive missiles to stop them. Now the question is, should India spend far more on cheaper drones and basic air defense guns and lasers instead of just buying and building perhaps the high-end missiles?
Thank you so much. Let me just make 2 points very clearly. As you say, it's rapid fire.
Yes.
First of all, this is yet another revolution in military affairs. The military affairs of the past few years has going dramatic changes. And those changes relate to the equipments, which we are talking about, such as drones, ballistic missiles, shields, S-400s, laser drones, laser rays, etc., etc.
Yes.
But along with it, we must also understand the second important point, which is very closely linked to the cost effect of these things. And that is, you need to have a very clear aim when you start a conflict. The aim should be very clear, the aim should be achievable, and the aim should have a very tight time frame. You cannot have a prolonged war. If you have a prolonged war, you will see what is happening in Ukraine and what is likely to happen and what is already happening in Iran and in Israel.
Correct.
What I'm trying to say is this. You rightly said that the costs are high, not only of equipments. One missile, 20,000, and the other replying 50,000. That's one part of it. The second part is so much damage caused. Therefore, I'll bring you to the example of Sindoor. We had a limited aim, a very accurate aim, a very pointed aim to destroy terrorist camps. We used all what we had to use the first night. The Pakis responded, and the second night we gave them another response, and the third day the war was over. The damage caused was sufficient as far as the attaining of the objective of India was concerned in Sindoor. No effect on our economy. Mind you, the very important thing is you don't want your economy to be ruined. You don't want your population to suffer. You don't want so much damage to your property and to your infrastructure. So if you want to have, please understand this is a major shift in dynamics of modern warfare, which very people are understanding, despite Ukraine example,
which
despite
is why
Gaza example, and despite the Sindoor example we put before the world.
Absolutely.
Have drones, have missiles, have shields, yes. And they have
what
to be
about
for
the
a
shield,
limited
Sudhanshu
period,
Kumar?
for a
India's
limited
new
target.
national air defense project, the Sudarshan Chakra, that is planned to be fully ready by 2035. But with the kind of intense drone and missile attacks we are talking about that we're seeing in West Asia today, do you think India now needs to speed this up or even rethink what that project should aim for?
Absolutely. I think this is very important that India should really speed up this program. And this Iran conflict has literally shown us that, yeah, this is the high time that India should really speed up this plan. Because you cannot wait for 2035, where you can expect that by 2035, our adversaries will stay and will not utilize our loopholes. And that's why and in that condition, it becomes very important. And we have to make a phase plan. First, we have to make phase plan in a way where we protect our major cities. Then we have to make a plan in which we protect our critical infrastructure, and then we protect our critical military sectors, and then we again protect whatever is left, because we cannot do it one go. But this is something this is not going to be a marathon anymore. This is a kind of sprint, and we have to make
prepared is
fast
industry
progress
though?
in this.
How prepared is industry? Agnishwar Jayaprakash, from what you're hearing, what can Indian companies realistically deliver right now to protect our bases and cities from the drones? Are we talking about electronic jammers? Are we talking about camera-based detection, the radar system, something more advanced even? Tell us from the industry standpoint where we stand.
Thank you so much for having me on, sir. Of course, as my very esteemed colleagues in the panel mentioned, the future of modern warfare has very clearly been defined. I think drones are playing a massive role. You're seeing multitude of very small, inexpensive, as well as long-range drones creating tremendous amount of damage. $10,000 to $20,000 drones are taking out $4 million worth of equipments. This is also going to be a war of attrition at a particular point. The side which will have larger voluminous amount of drones, which can also work in tandem, having manned and unmanned capabilities, where there's going to be a lot of pairing, and as you rightly said, a lot of EW, electronic countermeasures equipped with anti-jamming, anti-spoofing capabilities are going to ultimately define how battles are going to be won and lost. And from an industry perspective, we at Garuda Aerospace, right from 2022, have been preparing for such an scenario. We recently bagged about 2,000 drones order from the School of Artillery in Pune. We have about 20 different types of drones, particularly on these sorts of equipments. We're not focused on the hails and the mails and the very long endurance sort of drones. We're looking at building smaller, sleeker, consumable drones,
Right.
something which can mimic your artillery fire. So I think the entire battles in Israel, Palestine, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Russia, Ukraine, and of course the Iran conflict has changed the landscape. It is high time that the industries also starts to pick up the pace in terms of indigenous drone development, like what Garuda Aerospace has been doing for the last couple of years.
Ajay Shukla, do you agree, as a defense expert, someone who's been looking at all the developments, now that the landscape is changing as dramatically as it is, from everything that we've seen in West Asia, huge missile attacks and the drone swarms and the fast retaliatory strikes, what do you believe is the single biggest military lesson that India should be taking away right now?
Thanks for having me on the show. I think that somehow we sort of tend to overstate the magnitude of this problem. Drones have come into the battlefield. Yes, they've taken some time coming in, but it's not as if the drones that are now proliferating over the battlefield have completely done away with the need for or with the weapon systems that we have used so far. For example, we talk about the Sudarshan Chakra now. It is not a single point sort of solution for the enemy that renders all your air defense invulnerable or vulnerable. It is a series of technologies that have been gradually introduced and that are continuing to be introduced by various technology sort of agencies, such as the DRDO, such as high-tech private companies that are now coming in. And each of these technologies adds on to the capability to go and strike the enemy, or as far as the enemy is concerned, to come and strike us. We have to be able to deal with each of these technologies separately.
Yes.
The DRDO has been dealing with drones for quite some time. And it is not as if, we are desperately behind the times and so on.
Right.
There are drones that have been made, like the Rustam drone that the DRDO has been making for some time. And all of these agencies have to be brought together under a common umbrella. A sort of distribution of technology workloads has to be made for each of them. And then you will gradually come together with technology solutions that will amount to a single point solution like the Iron Dome or the Sudarshan Chakra.
Are we moving fast enough, though, is the question. Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad, if India ever faces a month-long surge of missiles and drones like we are seeing in West Asia, do we have enough missiles? Do we have enough spare parts, other supplies? Do we have them in enough quantity to be able to last that long?
Well, as I said earlier, we would always want to have shorter and very clean objective-related military operations. However, the problem is the enemy may want to prolong it. Please understand that there are varieties of drones, starting from what are elementary surveillance drones and goes on to loitering ammunition and very much larger drones. India is producing them. Yes, they are. There is need to speed up production further. Yes, there is. And there is also need to get better equipments to prevent missiles hitting us and to also drones hitting us, even though it's very expensive. We can't have cheaper equipment for that. And we are absorbing technology. We are absorbing technologies wherever it's best available. Very recently, we have taken technologies from some of the very advanced military industrial countries, and that is being involved.
So
now,
are
what
we
is important, therefore, is
overstating?
an Atmanirbhar Bharat.
So are we
have to
overstating?
manufacture them in India.
Lieutenant General Prasad,
have to be
are we
by us.
overstating, like Ajay Shukla is saying, the impact that drones have, the modern warfare, the way it is playing out right now, the need of it, and our ability to be resilient against an attack of that kind? Where are the factors that are holding us back from speeding up our resilience?
No, Ajay Shukla is absolutely correct, and I agree with him. It doesn't mean that the drones are the only thing that's going to happen, but everything relates to what your objectives are. And it is not only simple to say that. You need to have terrific intelligence equipment and intelligence capabilities. You need to have very high-grade technologies of electronic warfare. You need to have very You see, there are examples available to you in Iraq and Israel war. You just seen a pinpoint attack by drones and missiles on a headquarter, which is 6x6 grid references. So obviously, excellent intelligence is available. So these are multi-issues which have
Yeah.
to be put together,
So-
and that only creates an impact.
So
The last point I want to make is this. This is not going to make the other equipment such as the tanks and the heavy artillery and all of those things irrelevant. It all depends on, are you creating an aim which involves capture of ground, capture of territory. If that is the objective, there are certain other kinds of things required, not only drones and ballistic missiles and safety against them. But the point is this: are we going to fight against capturing land or real estate, or are we fighting against degrading the capabilities of the enemy's military
One would
forces,
imagine that we
or
need
are we
a
trying to
readiness
do a
in
military
both.
operation of
One would
targeted
imagine that
areas
one
or
needs
regime
readiness in
change?
both, sir. Sudhanshu Kumar.
Absolutely.
Yes, but let me go across to Sudhanshu Kumar, because talking about lessons from the past, Operation Sindoor, did that operation prove that India has this reliable method to protect our military bases using Indian systems? Or do we still need the cheaper weapons? Do we need the sensors, or at least more quantities of them, and faster communication networks to build that truly strong defense wall?
First of all, we have to understand that this is a case where we are seeing a widespread use of AI in warfare. And if you are just thinking that AI in warfare is something, just drone warfare is not something very accurate, because when it comes to AI in warfare, it can be understood in three ways. First is military robotics, then it's electronic warfare, then it's information warfare. Drone warfare is just one part of military robotics. And in that case, it's very important that we should not just make it limited to drone warfare, because there are other aspects of warfare where AI is being used today.
Right.
And in that way, electronic warfare and information warfare are very important aspects as well. And we are seeing that a widespread use of AI in every domain. And when it comes to Operation Sindoor, definitely we have shown that, yeah, India has all the capabilities, especially all the capabilities. Approx more than 99.9% of cyber attacks has been controlled from Indian side when it came from Pakistan side during Operation Sindoor. And definitely we have used our S-400s to protect our infrastructure. But the fact is that we cannot rely on expensive S-400 interceptors and defense systems to just counter the cheap drones. We
Right.
have to create kind of systems where we have to create cheap missiles, laser systems, and other kind of equipments which can be used to control these loitering munitions coming from the adversary side.
Correct.
We cannot use such expensive S-400 system just to counter these coming very cheap drones. So that's the case today.
Right. So drone warfare is just one part of it. Agnishwar, if India wants every major city, every district to have basic protection against drones, even though we are saying that that's just one aspect of it, but what is the fastest and the most practical mix of Indian technologies that can be deployed? Maybe a mix of radio frequency detectors, the artificial intelligence cameras, the jammers, and the anti-drone guns. Are we working sufficiently hard on getting all of these in place?
Absolutely. I think it is going to be a combination of both the MOD as well as the MHA getting into the fight to protect all these very important, locations of strategic interest. I think that the MHA, along with the Information Bureau, have been focused on building drone capabilities and counter-drone capabilities. We're in fact, advising on drone forensics as well as unmanned traffic management systems, which is very key, because like how the airplanes have air traffic controls, you would want to know where drones are, be it friendly or non-friendly drones at any point of time. You'd want the regulators to have access to that sort of information, especially within the country. I think that those are capabilities, but I completely agree with a lot of my panelists here. We need to start building low-cost counter-drone systems that can combat these potential attacks that could come in from foreign countries. But at the same time, not to be too cliched, I don't feel that attacks from Pakistan or the terror groups are worthy opposition for India these days, and the kind of technologies that we have. We should start to compare ourselves more with what, be it Russia or the US or Israel or Turkey or Iran
Yes.
are having in terms of their capabilities, and start learning and developing a lot more technology, AI related and focused equipments that can be scaled up in a surge manufacturing method. I believe that volume is going to ultimately define strength in this particular sector. Low cost drones, drones that are equipped with a lot of intelligence that can operate along with your tanks, along with your helicopters, take commands and start relaying information and data from very wide ranges. I
Yes.
think those are going to be the keys to victory in this war.
So Ajay Shukla, are we going to do this indigenously? Are we going to use the help? Because like is being pointed out from someone who is part of the industry as well, saying that, look, we need to kind of match up with what the United States has. Israel has been a long-term partner. Right now, if you see strategy-wise, the US and Israel, they're destroying launch sites that are deep inside Iran to stop the attacks at their source. So then the question is, should India also adopt that kind of idea of striking launch sites before the enemies fire drones or missiles at us?
See, there are numerous capabilities that go into a drone system, and we need to work on each of those capabilities individually, bringing to the table so the capabilities that many of our companies, especially the new high-tech companies, have, and bringing together those capabilities. For example, one line of capabilities will be imaging and cameras. The others will be stealth capabilities that render those drones more survivable in the enemy's airspace. The third would be transference of information in lifetime from the drones to the ground stations that control them. And each of these capabilities has to be worked on by a group of maybe public companies, maybe new private companies that are coming to the table now, and the MOD and the DRDO has to play an overall controlling, overarching role.
Yes.
That brings together and integrates these capabilities into a single system.
Correct.
That is where we need to focus much of our effort, not so much on we are still trying to identify what are the sort of threats that are there on the battlefield right now.
But talking about threats, Ajay Shukla, talking about threats, there are groups like Hezbollah right now that are launching attacks across borders. We're talking about proxy wars. So how should India then strengthen our own defenses against non-state actors? They may be using drones or rockets or cyber attacks to target our cities or our overseas communities. How do you defend yourself against them?
We have to, this is exactly what I was mentioning just now, that we need to bring certain capabilities or certain of our abilities to develop a particular capability. And, Hezbollah, it makes one is sort of constrained to mention that we seem to have built up too much into these capabilities that are existing so far. Hezbollah, Pakistan, China, Turkey, all of them have their own individual capabilities, and so too do we. What we have to do is to take our capabilities, enhance them, work in various silos, and then bring together and integrate what has been developed.
But we need to do it being financially responsible as well. Defense budgets is a key factor that we concentrate on every time a budget comes in. Lieutenant General, if we have to remain financially responsible, these defense needs, though they are rising fast, how can India adjust our spending on defense so we get the most protection without, compromising our fiscal prudence?
You're absolutely right. There is definitely need to have a higher defense budget allocation. But that's one part which has been going on for many, many years. And our defense budget, as far as the GDP is concerned, is one of the lowest anywhere in the world. That besides, the more important thing is this, that the technologies have to be developed indigenously. And those high-end technologies, which we do not have at the moment, and it's a very time-consuming effort, these needs to be obtained from abroad, wherever these are available. So if you see, in the last few years, our central point has been that we will buy an equipment from you. Say Rafale is the one which is being talked about. We'll buy 140 or whatever number that is. Only so many we'll buy in ready condition, so many in spare parts, and so many finally produced in India with technology transfer and produced in India. Therefore, high technology equipment, yes, We have to do the R&D.
Yes.
We have to do the R&D and DRDO along with private companies. But we do not want to start looking at the...
So what is reassuring right now from everything that we are hearing?
From the beginning.
What we are hearing from your views tonight?
As a major part of our equipment deals.
Correct. No, but just taking away from everything that all of you are saying, that we're not starting from scratch. We have made improvements to our defense capability. Operation Sindoor has gone ahead and proven what systems like Akash and D4 and our loitering munitions can actually do. Mission Sudarshan Chakra is going to give us that long-term national plan as well. But now comes that real work. We need the faster timelines. We need the bigger stockpiles and shifting the drone swarms from the test demos to actual doctrine, as it were. The faster it happens, the better it is for us to be able to take on the changing dynamics of the world. And we're seeing that play out in no small measure right now in West Asia. My thanks to Agnishwar Jayaprakash, Ajay Shukla, Sudhanshu Kumar, Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad. Thank you very much for joining us with your insights on this. This conversation is going to continue. And with that, it's going to be a wrap on this edition of The Big Question. India's defense capability is something that is top of mind. When something as severe as West Asia plays out, the way it's firing up economies, and right now we're seeing that trouble flare up across the region and spreading. In times like this, how is India prepared for the immediate future? It's a discussion we'll keep having on The Big Question. I'm Vikram Oza, for me and the team. Thank you for joining us. Good evening.